They're a key part of this landscape, the river red gum. It's so important for the biodiversity and everything that lives on this land around this river country. The red gum tree is the biggest tree in this landscape, and they'll have lots of stories tied to those trees. You know, they're hundreds of years old, and the grandfathers and their people would have told them stories about these certain trees, and they are very important, not only to Aboriginal people, but all community.
They are probably the most dominant species along the River Murray. They're also probably the most iconic species. These river red gums can grow up to 45 metres tall and can have a diameter on the base of their trunk of around 5 metres. The river red gum provides a huge amount to the environment, from a sapling all the way through to a 1,000-year-old river red gum. At a certain time of the year, we see a beautiful white blossom come out in the river red gums, and they're full of nectar, so the bees and the birds are really attracted to that food source. As they grow older, they develop hollows, so they become homes and habitat for other animals. Even as they die off and become just branches and limbs on the ground, they are habitat.
Not only do they make a lot of homes for birds and lizards, when they die off and they fall into the river, they create a lot of homes for fish, yabbies, and all creatures in the river.
These trees that you see are, hundreds of years old, are very important to Trish because it talks about the way it was years ago. There's birthing trees where Aboriginal people were born underneath or around, scar trees, canoe trees, and when you do see these trees fall over eventually in the river, or they've died from whatever it is, salinity or whatever, there's that sadness that tree that's hundreds of years old that's died.
There's not a lot of natural floods anymore, so a lot of the river red gums are slowly dying.
There's been so many changes in the landscape, like overuse of water along the river system. And back years ago, there was no locks or weirs, so it come up and down all the time, and that's why the trees and everything were so healthy.
Before European colonisation, we would have seen larger red gums that would create a much less dense river red gum forest. But also the understory has changed completely as well. So when we would have had those natural flooding occurrence, we would have seen a lot more smaller herbs, some really nice shrubs. And then as the water dries out, you'd get lots of beautiful flowers and things like that. Now that the river's regulated, we aren't seeing a lot of natural flooding occurrences. So we actually need to make sure that happens. The basis of our land management all depends on the geography of the land that we're managing. So an understanding of geography helps us then in turn implement scientific measures to make sure that we're protecting our environment. Parks Victoria work closely with traditional owners and other organisations to deliver water from the river to some of our floodplains.
There's some watering programs going through CMA and other groups that are doing some great work, working with traditional owners about bringing water back on country and how they do that in a culturally sensitive way, and the landscape will only benefit from it.
It's probably all about managing how you can flood these a natural way to keep them living.
We've got to keep what we've got here, because otherwise they'll be all dead before long and everyone will be suffering then. It's not just Aboriginal people, it's everyone that's living here.
Because these river red gums are so reliant on water, it's a good opportunity for us just to remember ways that you can conserve water at home yourself. That water that we're not using is going back into the river system and eventually, hopefully, out into our floodplains. I'd just encourage everyone to come down the river and sit by a river red gum and just appreciate what we've got here in the river country. It's so important for our community to be aware and to learn and to appreciate these beautiful red gum forests, and we need to make sure that we protect them.